Well, that grew out of my first commissioned portrait, which was in this past show called Susan's Back. And a friend of mine came to me and wanted me to paint her back. And she's a woman who's, she was a dancer, she's very physically fit, never had kids, no body fat, and she likes her back. She did not like her face. And I tried to encourage her, well, you've got a beautiful face, you've got this distinctive nose, and I worked her face into the portrait. But what I did was for the first time I took nude photos of somebody, which I hadn't done before, and I incorporated those into the piece. I had her write a list of words that she associated with her back, and incorporated some text in a poem. And it came out really well, and to her back signified both grace and beauty, but also strength, because she had, like all of us, has suffered various pain in her life and kinds of pain, and her back symbolized her strength that held her up in difficult times. So working with Susan on that piece inspired me to want to continue to do commissioned portraits, focus on women and men, people who are in various stages of transition and healing, and really work with them and talk to them about what they want that piece to represent to them in terms of the feeling, the spirituality, colors, mood, all of that. So I'm starting my own commissioned portrait business, and I've got 2 people lined up already. And one friend had hip surgery and has all these scars on her hips, and she wants a portrait of that. Another one just lost a breast. So I don't want it all solely focused on the body, but I'm enjoying getting back to doing figurative work, because I did a lot of that when I was in college. And that piece that I did of myself has to do with my own back issues. When I was a kid, I had scoliosis. My spine was curved, and I had to wear a body cast, and was taunted partly because of that too. So there's all kinds of pain that people carry in different places in their body. It can be the back or the stomach or the head, the heart, anywhere. So what I'm trying to do now through my art is just to dig that out and tell the story of that, and then let it go and kind of move forward.
So now you're kind of exploring the experience of pain, and you're saying if you express the pain, it will release it?
Yes, I think kind of delving within, getting to know what the cause of that pain is, kind of facing it instead of running from it, acknowledging it, giving it a space somewhere else, whether it's in your art or words or what have you. Some people dream it away. Whatever you need to do, I think it helps to release it, get rid of it once and for all.
So in a sense, it's like a form of inspiration than the pain.
Yes. Yeah, I think in the same way that I was drawn to books when I was a child, a lot of that was kind of get away from certain family things that were going on. So I kind of escaped through reading. I read all the time. I think maybe my art can be, in a way of escape and healing both. And creating beauty, because I want what I do to be aesthetically beautiful as well. So it's a combination of all of these things.
So where's the greatest pain in your life now?
The greatest pain in my life now? It's disappearing. You want details? I don't know.
A little bit.
I want the 3 pains I mentioned in that drawing. The first one had to do with childhood pains, kind of feeling isolated from the rest of my family when I was growing up. And the second one had to do with losing my firstborn child, who died when she was 3 months old to sudden infant death syndrome. Currently, I'm going through a divorce after having been married for 23 years. So all of those are painful things. But I remember when I wrote about losing my child a couple of years afterwards, I wrote about just as her birth initiated me into motherhood and what that meant, her death initiated me into the world of grieving. I didn't know what true grief was until I went through that experience. So I think with every experience like that, you become wiser. Not initially, it's just totally overwhelmingly just painful. But once you go through it, through the passage of time, and maybe some support from other people who've been through similar things, then you move on to the wisdom that you've gained from that experience. And you can use that. You can use that to help console other people and to... it's just kind of another part of who you are. If I hadn't been through some of the things I've been through, I wouldn't be able to talk about them. I wouldn't be able to help other people through similar trauma. So it's
an empathy
Yeah, I think I've always been an empathetic person from the time I was very young, but you can take on too much when you're too empathetic. You got to have some reserve so you don't just crumble, so you just kind of build those reserves up, and in the end they make you stronger. I'm a mixed media artist. I studied at Berkeley many years ago, doing mostly figure drawing and etching and silk screening. And most of my art until recently has been very kind of political, cultural statements. I use a lot of vintage photographs. This is my first commissioned portrait. And I didn't know if I could still even draw the figure. It's been so long that I've been doing so much mixed media. So I took the photographs with my friend Susan. She wanted me to paint her back. She likes her back. She's a dancer in great shape, and she's from Cape Verde Islands. So I asked her to think about words that she associated with her back, and I incorporated these words: made of steel and grace, my back bears all, and bends when I want it to. And let's see, initially she didn't want her profile. She wasn't as comfortable with her face as she is with her back, but I wanted to work it in, so I did. So this was an experiment. I wanted to do some commissioned portraits. So this is the first one, so I was anxious to see how it turned out. So that's what I'm doing now. My favorite piece here, they're also different. I love vintage photographs, and I'm really blessed to have beautiful photographs from both sides of my family. And these old photographs, my grandmother worked at the Berkeley YMCA, and she led all these women on nature hikes. These are photos from the early 1900s, probably in the 19-teens and 20s. She took these women to the beach. So I use this encaustic method, which I recently discovered, but it's actually an ancient Egyptian method of sealing the tombs in wax. And over the years, different artists, probably over the past 50 years, have started using wax with pigment. So this is a combination of encaustic, the wax and the heat, and pastel and photos, and this collage. I have been doing a lot of pretty heavy political art. Decided to do something more fun, so I had my daughter pose in the yard with a drawing of my sons and just do something kind of fun. And this is my face here. It's more of an expression of independence and getting away from this whole Aunt Jemima stereotype. So it's more of a fun piece too. I was taking another break from my political, social statement work. So this is a haiku poem that I wrote several years ago, and I just adapted it to the painting and photo images of different Jemimas floating off to Jemima heaven or wherever they go. So,
do you remember how one of these pieces came about, the actual inspiration and the process of how it came about?
Well, my grandmother had she had this huge trunk that she brought out from Arkansas, one of those beautiful old wood trunks with the leather straps, and I was going through and found all these photographs and letters, and she had a whole envelope of stamps she had saved and return addresses. I guess she was going to do her address book and never got around to it, something kind of like me. And I just wanted to take all these things in remembrance of her and piece them together. And she and I were very close. And also did a handmade book of both of my grandparents.
So it's kind of like a way of remembering her?
Yeah, kind of documenting some family history visually, and I like to include text in my work. I have just tons of letters also, so I can document the history from their voice. So I have a lot of work that incorporates letters as well as photographs.